Virtue of eating. Once ordained, the priest must remember and keep the virtue of eating. The clergy must not having food after midday. So people who have been ordained give up all of the world just to get a bowl with 3 clothes to beg for food in daily life. There is only one midday meal a day. So eating after midday, 2 or 3 meals a day is not correct behavior of a clergy. Nowadays, there are many Buddhist monks, but they cannot master his dining activities. If meals cannot be controlled, how to control minds? Because the Buddhism teaches the method of be free from desire. How can we control the desire of sleep while we cannot control desire of eating? Eating is an right virtue of bodily postures in Buddhism. But if you cannot be master of your dining activities, what is your purpose of being a monk? Let's study these right virtue of bodily postures carefully. These imposing right virtue which are repeated many times are included in Buddhism commandments. You should read 100 offenses connected with the monks' and nuns' daily activities in which teach right virtue of bodily postures. But right here we just want to warn you about the virtue of eating. If you cannot control the virtue of eating, there is no chance for you to control the birth and death. In the first stage of practice, your guider of practice to control the birth, aging, illness, death will note how your life is. If you do not keep eating timely, you will be excluded from the practice. The instructor will not accept and not teach you to practice any Dhamma. If eating without mastering the eating activities with 2 or 3 meals a day, you should give up the life cultivation to come to your home, because if you continue practicing in that way, there is no benefit you can get. If you want to control the practice of mastering life and death without mastering the eating activities, you must be dreaming. If you want to control your eating activities, you have to make a high effort to not violate the virtue, and not eat after midday or more than 1 meal a day. With such effort, having 1 meal a day is turned out very easy for you. When you can have 1 meal a day, you must practice to destroy drowsiness, delusion, sin. This stage is more difficult than the stage of eating. It's not too difficult to practice this stage if you practice walking meditation hard and practice the Dhamma of activities of the body. The result will be blue. Sleeping and rest is a right virtue of body postures. To deeply understand, you should study virtuous precept of monks and nuns written by Chan Nu Monastery. If you sleep without being master of it, you should come back to home for eating and sleeping in pleasure. In practice, being master of the birth and death without being master of sleeping and eating, there is no country for you in Buddhism. Withdrawing seems more intelligent selection. Virtue of sleeping and rest. Come to Buddhism. In daily life, we must overcome virtue of sleeping. Virtue of sleeping in the clergy is considered the most difficult one, which if we do not vigilant, we will be easier to fall into losing consciousness, drowsiness, neutral and obstinacy. Those who usually guard meditation will meet monks slower and hold their head up like chickens harvesting rice, especially in the evening, from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. and late at night, at 2 a.m. or meditate at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the early morning. A person who determines to practice usually meditate and walking nearly all the day, while the lazy ones drop off wherever they sit because they rarely meditate and walking. When visiting a monastic hall is that, the students of meditation meditating of walking are practicing incorrect method, when those sitting too much when meditating are practicing an incorrect method. Why? Since meditating of walking regularly, the students of meditation are able to overcome the losing consciousness, drowsiness, neutral, obstinacy, and they are completely mindful. while those who sit too much are the lazy ones. So, practice is not just sitting or giving up while they dream, but the tranquility of mind to be well aware each of their pondering vain to eliminate and abandon all obstacles make their mind unsafe. Because of eliminating and abandoning their obstacles, their minds are very motionless, peaceful, contentment and unscathed. The goal of practicing is to have a sound and lucid mind, not be attached by losing consciousness and drowsiness and drop off wherever they sit down. So meditative walking is the best way to overcome the losing consciousness and drowsiness. If those who want to meditate but lazy, they should come back to their eating and sleeping life to satisfy themselves. When they eat and sleep like that in religion, is not the virtue of monks in the Buddhism. There are two methods in meditation of walking. 1. Walking meditate like a normal person action, and know of exactly each step. Walking meditation must practice walk as an unscathed person, should not walk too fast or too slow. 2. Walking mediation in accordance with the method of mindfulness with regard to the body. Each step or action must be aroused in advance. When mind has no consciousness, drowsiness, neutral and obstinacy, it is aroused. Otherwise, it should arouse into voice as a command. When entering a pagoda to practice, we should practice methods of walking mediation to get smoother. If it is the 7-year practice program to attain the path of the truth, we should meditate of walking 5 years uninterruptedly and the last 2 years have a little sit. Only practice like that can we see that attain the truth of Buddhist is not so difficult, just laborious only. So those who want to attain the truth should meditate of walking more. Since meditating of walking more, will have a sound mind and have no meddling evil things, so our minds will be motionless, peaceful, contentment and unscathed. Overcoming consciousness, drowsiness, neutral and obstinacy is all based on walking meditation, so you should remember that in order not to be lazy when practicing that wastes a life of being a Buddhist. Virtue of seclusion. Seclusion is a protective virtue for 6 bases: eye, ear, nose, mouth, body and mind. The monk not protecting eye, ear, nose, mouth, body, mind, their mind is always unrestrained, a 6 exhalation. If the mind is unrestrained, it will not be a pure mind. Formerly, Buddha said, I am the chief enlightenment is because the mind is not unrestrained. If you want your mind not to be unrestrained, we must have a tight protection for 6 bases. If we want 6 bases are kept in a tight protection, the virtue of seclusion is the only well-settled method. Thus, the monks infringe the virtue of seclusion, is guilty of very serious, and cannot practice anymore. Buddhist practitioners are forbidden to talk, like talking is said to be unrestrained, which launched the line against the practice of Buddhist liberation. Therefore, those break the virtue of seclusion is one's practice in Mahayana Buddhism. Zen Buddhism should come back to their Laukika life to be monks for better. Living with the monk clothes but always talk about the other's story is not eligible to be a Buddhist monk. You Buddhist teacher should pay attention, please. Practice that is to keep a calm mind. There are no reasons for it to likes talking. Practiced must be properly religious person. If not, practice is no use insisting. If a monk that likes talking, it will lose the pure meaning of Buddha's practitioners. In summary, when taking steps into the way of practice in order to gain emancipation, you should all remember preventing from breach of these things. 1. Do not eat after midday. 2. Do not sleep untimely. 3. Must be serious to keep virtue of seclusion completely. These are the 3 things which, in a monastery, A priest who violates shall be sent away from Sangha. The three virtues is in the first stage of cultivation. If in the first phase of this practice has not been fulfilled, do not desire to cultivate the next stage. Please keep this in your mind, ladies and gentlemen. As you all know, when the Buddha became a monk, he practiced austerities. He did not sleep or eat untimely. When being under the Bodhi tree, he kept practicing in 100% completed seclusion, since 5 brothers of Ajnatakanya, Anakandana, who had practiced asceticism with the Buddha, had kept away from the Buddha and not asked him any things when having seen the Buddha giving up asceticism. Thanks to those conditions, the Buddha to live fully in the virtue of seclusion. Seclusion, a great method to protect eyes, ears, nose, mouth, body, mind. It helps the priest keep 6 roots being not fully away from anyone in order to attain enlightenment. Because of this cultivation experience, when having attained the enlightenment, the Buddha made the following statement: I become a supreme as my mind has not been heedless. Is this not because of virtue of seclusion? So, the virtue of seclusion plays a very important role in practice of Buddhism. You see, you should do not look the virtue off. If you defy the virtue of seclusion, there is no result you can get in your Buddhist way. Please think twice.